Last minute, the great star of the Golden State Warriors asked for a trade, and that could change the NBA today. Speak up, Warriors Nation and NBA lovers. I know how hard it is to see your team shake, so I'll be straight with you. In less than 30 seconds, you'll know why this request happened, what's going on behind the scenes, and 3 fates that could turn the West upside down. One of them is surprising and involves immediate adjustment within the quintet. Stay with me until the end as I explain the impact on Curry, the locker room, and the run to the playoffs. Let's go. Before continuing behind the scenes and revealing the most likely destination, give some support. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you get live breakdowns and quick analysis whenever you make a bomb in the NBA. Combined? So let's go. In the next few seconds, I'll show you the 3 destinations and who wins and loses with this exchange. Welcome. Take a deep breath with me for a moment and look around. The Chase Center is too quiet for the size of the question hanging in the air. Are you feeling it too? It's that bittersweet mix that only appears when a historic team reaches a real crossroads. I'm not going to sell you cheap drama or pile on adjectives to disguise a lack of content. Our conversation today is about identity, courage, and the future. Yes, about the Golden State Warriors, and about the maturity that every dynasty needs to have to continue winning when easy solutions no longer exist. I want you to imagine that we are side by side, leaning against the railing, watching the warm-up. The soundtrack is the same, the light on the screen is the same, the smell of popcorn is the same, but there is something different about the atmosphere. The feeling that the team that we learned to see as untouchable began to ask, internally, a question that for years sounded like heresy. What is the price of remaining the same? I'm not here to disrespect legends, much less to feed gossip. I'm here to face reality head-on, calmly, with respect, with the depth you deserve. Because if the shirt is heavy, the conversation needs to be too. Let's get to the point. The warriors that conquered the world were built on very clear principles: collective intelligence, offensive altruism, a defense that breathes like a single organism, and a core that trusts each other with its eyes closed. And it is precisely by honoring these principles that the organization begins to truly ask itself whether the time has come to update the framework without breaking the picture. This hurts, because it involves changing what brought us here. It involves accepting that giant virtues can, over time, become limitations if they are not reevaluated. If you follow this channel, you already know that I don't trade analysis for noise. So let me line up the cards. Absolute respect for the pieces that transformed Golden State into a world reference, especially to those who for years dictated the emotional tone of the defense, accelerated transitions just with reading and voice, and were the pivot of tactical decisions that broke the league's logic. It doesn't go away. It is recorded in history, recorded on tracks, recorded on our Sundays. At the same time, the NBA doesn't have a pause button. The salary clock ticks, contracts weigh heavily, rivals adapt, knees feel, arrangements change, and what yesterday was a non-negotiable difference today needs to fit into a higher, longer, more spaced, more rigorous basketball in each possession. This is where the talk gets adult. There are no villains in this story. There are priorities, schedules, and responsibilities. There's a star, you know the name, whose energy changed the way we understand the game. There is another star that is the entire system, and there is a cast in transition that asks for a clue. Look at the trends. When the Warriors embrace formations with more wingspan and shooting in both positions, the court opens up in a different way. The cuts hurt again. Extra balls appear. The gravity of the main creator, which was already absurd, becomes an almost geometric force. 4 perimeter threats stretch the defense. The pivot that is spaced out rips the rim protector out of the box. The attack stops asking for permission and starts imposing dilemmas. It's not theory. It's a design choice. And on defense, defense is the soul. You and I know that you can't romanticize. Elite defense requires legs, length of arms, communication, and a minimum tolerance for the other's mistakes. Ask for availability. It asks that the mental version of "we are connected" meets the physical version of "I will get there." It requires fine adjustments in the playoffs, when every weakness becomes a target, every free throw becomes a poison, and every lack of spacing becomes an invitation for ruthless doubles and assists. The question the board has on the table is simple to formulate and difficult to answer. What is the best way to preserve the Warriors' winning identity while the league's basketball gets heavier, louder, and crueler with squads that don't punish space? Am I giving in? Notice the overlapping timelines. On the one hand, the last great years of an offensive genius who still drags defenses out of their comfort zone just by stepping on the court. On the other, the rise of young people, especially those who started knocking on the door not only with potential, but with real production, reading the game, courage to attack mismatches, and the ability to defend multiple positions. In between, long contracts, a collective agreement that punishes bloated sheets, and a league that values versatility more than ever. This sandwich of factors creates the pressure of now. Each rotation needs to deliver value. Every minute must mean tactical gain. Each player without shooting needs to compensate with something so special that the balance remains positive against the top of the conference. I know this conversation seems dry, but it's actually about love. Anyone who truly loves a team doesn't live with a tape in the rearview mirror. Anyone who truly loves a team understands that a dynasty does not honor itself by reinventing the facts, but rather by asking the difficult questions at the right time. Questions such as, how far does loyalty protect and from what point does it blind? When does respect for history become an excuse to ignore the next step? At what point does holding a symbol start to cost fluidity, design diversity, and room for maneuver? I don't have easy answers, but I am convinced that avoiding these questions is the shortest recipe for discovering suddenly that the window closed silently 2 years ago. Let's be concrete. The sustainable plan to continue competing around our historic shipowner requires 3 pillars. First, functional spacing. It's not about shooting for the sake of throwing, it's about having 5 players who punish help and make the defense pay for doubles. Second, exchangeable size. Wings that can withstand contact, pivot from the perimeter, offer coverage at the rim without having to sell our soul on every possession. Third, rhythm with control. Run when it's an advantage, but avoid the chaos that forces us to constantly go into hero mode. None of these pillars exclude the presence of veteran leaders, but each of them exacts a price when certain limitations become more pronounced with age, with the accumulation of minutes, with the tactical vigilance of opponents. The playoffs are a merciless laboratory. Everything that doesn't support mathematics gives way. But what about the locker room, you may be asking? I wonder too, and I don't underestimate it. The locker room is a country. It's made of hierarchy, trust, frank conversations, scolding at the right time, and hugs at the right moment. There is an intangible value in having someone who dictates the defensive tone, who points the finger at the wrong positioning, who calls coverage before the play is born. There is immense value in having someone your franchise player trusts as an extension of their own mind. None of this can be magically replaced. That's why this debate is so delicate. Therefore, any step must be studied across the board. Tactical impact, emotional impact, financial impact, impact on the squad's timeline. Now, join me in a court projection. Think of a Warriors who preserves the ball's rhythm with cuts and passes, but adds real 5-outs against elite defenses. Think about a second quarter in which 2 long and agile wingers exchange almost everything. A mobile center protects the edge and can contest outside, and the historic point guard manipulates space with 2 threats on the wings, ready to attack closeouts. Think about the end of the game with a closer who doesn't reduce the space, who holds rebounds, and at the same time maintains the defense's respect on the perimeter. This formation does not deny the past. It updates it to the geometry of the present. It expands what we already do best and protects what is starting to weigh us down. What about the alternative? The alternative is to stand still, waiting for the league to return to 2016, for age to regress, for the salary cap to ease, for opponents to forget how to attack the weak point. It won't happen. The best scenario for those who stay still is to live on flashes. The worst thing is getting used to honorable eliminations. And this team, you know, was never meant to settle for almost. Before moving on, Let me put due respect on the table. There are careers that are confused with the identity of a franchise. There are players who leave such deep marks that, even when logic asks for another path, feelings will ask for another chapter. This conflict is beautiful, and it is human. He deserves silence. He deserves internal conversation. He deserves that the decision, whatever it may be made without humiliation, without theater, without caprice. If one day a change of this size happens, let it be by conviction, by project, by an exchange that actually brings pieces and choices capable of keeping the Warriors relevant now and relevant later. Anything below that is not strategy. It's a waste of history. Let's talk about practical paths. What makes sense when the board thinks in large adjustments? The first way is to design a front court with a partner who adds size and shooting, a big that stretches the defense and doesn't allow free help on the nail, a player who accepts the responsibility of rebounding and at the same time does not let the attack die in blocks that lead to a non-free shooter at the top. This changes everything, forces defenses to choose poison, reopen the backdoor corridor. It returns the feeling that each line is a threat and not just a distraction. The second path is to work on a package of two-way wings, plus choices that open the bridge from now to tomorrow. Wings between 1.98 m and 2.06 meters, with arms, torso, and feet, who can guard the 2-4, hit closeouts, make good decisions in 2 dribbles, and convert corners with consistency. You don't need to be a poster star. It needs to be a piece that fits. 2 of these, well chosen, can redraw an entire rotation. They give room for tactical variations. They give rest without melting advantage. And with choices, they keep the renewal button on without imploding the present. Maybe you're thinking, okay, but what if nothing on the market pays what it's worth? Here comes the most important part of this video, the courage to say no. Sometimes, the big decision is to keep who is essential, adjust around the edges, negotiate minutes honestly, outline clear rules, reduce the space for the unpredictable off the court, and go again with what still works, but with demands and trade-offs. The maturity I advocate here is not about changing for the sake of changing. It's knowing how to measure cost and benefit in 360 degrees, and when faced with a half-assed package, refuse. Continuing is not cowardice when it is conviction. It's cowardice, yes, when it's fear of facing difficult conversations. Speaking of difficult conversations, let's go to the heart of the fan, the feeling. I know it hurt just to imagine a change that touches figures we learned to protect. I also feel this tightness. But feeling and strategy are not adversaries, are sides of an equation. Sentiment ensures that we do not treat people like numbers. The strategy ensures that we do not treat the institution as an altar. If the combination of these 2 factors points to maintaining, keep your chest open. If you point to move, move with dignity. What you can't do is allow the past to decide alone for the future. I want to take the opportunity to look a little ahead at the franchise's emotional calendar. When people talk about the next version of Warriors, there are those who imagine a sudden rupture, as if it were necessary to deny everything that worked. It's not that. The next version preserves the principles that got us here: movement without the ball, altruism, collective reading, and injects elements that the league requires today: lengthening the court, multiple functional handlers, defensive switching without collapsing the rim. This combination only happens when the composition of the squad allows multiple paths to victory, and multiplying paths requires choices. Sometimes it asks us to stop depending on a single equation. Have you ever noticed how recent series against the best in the West exposed, at certain moments, a script that was repeated? When the spacing shrank, the opposing defense parked its size in the creases, passes lost half a second, the attack turned into a mountain. In parallel, on the other side, long wings forced us to close, open, close, open, in a dance that takes its toll in the last minutes. This is what makes me insist on swappable size and reliable kick as a priority, not out of fad, but out of arithmetic necessity. And speaking of arithmetic, the salary cap. He does not forgive romance. Every dollar you invest in a top that no longer delivers proportional impact becomes a lack of depth in the 8th, 9th, and 10th pieces. And real playoffs are often won in the 10 minutes in which their stars breathe. Who holds the piano during this break? Who doesn't hand over the advantage on a platter? Who keeps the defense above the waterline while the first option returns to the game? When you look at this entire puzzle, you understand why the question about reinvention is less of a whim and more of a consequence. Let me open my heart to you, as I always do here. I grew up learning that respect for idols is non-negotiable, and I continue to believe that. But true respect is not the kind that freezes people in time, is the one who recognizes greatness, protects dignity, and, if necessary, chooses what is best for the collective without slipping into empty spectacle. If, at some point, the management and the athlete themselves understand that the paths separate, it should be with a clear plan, with real feedback on the court, and with the awareness that nothing erases what was built. If this is not the case, if the best option is to continue together, let it be with practical adjustments, objective goals, and a sincere pact with the competitive discipline that has always set this team apart. Now let me put you on the court once again, so that the conversation doesn't get abstract. Think about a game ending in which the Warriors open with a high block, 2 cross-cuts on the blind side, and the corner steps millimetrically on the line to create a passing angle. Think about defense. Right after, changing 1 to 4 without needing to collapse the rim because the big opponent respects our 5's shot. Think about the rebound that doesn't splash because there is wingspan on all sides. Think about the transition that comes from this and ends with a tray without forcing a hero ball. This is design. This is idea reproduction. This is the type of basketball that expands the window of the genius who controls the clock, and at the same time creates a scenario for young people to become adults in the series, not just in January. I know you came here because you want sincerity. So here goes. There is no perfect answer. There is direction. The direction I advocate for the Warriors is one that combines reverence for history with a radical commitment to the basketball that wins today. It's about maintaining what is still a tool and debugging what has become an obstacle. It's about building squads that allow adjustments without tearing up the essence. It's about protecting our historic point guard's minutes by surrounding him with shooting, size, and multiple action options. It is, above all, not lying to ourselves when the big matches start and the game demands solutions that no longer fit into nostalgia. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. This channel exists to have conversations like this eye to eye without foam shows. I'm not here to decide anything for you. I'm here to share the process, to put the pros and cons on the table, to respect your intelligence as a fan. Now I want to hear from you. Would you pull the trigger for a package that offers size, spacing, and choices that preserve the present and future? Or do you believe that the right path is to reaffirm the core, adjust minutes, and seek evolution with what we already have, demanding clear counterparts of discipline and availability? Tell me in the comments what your yes parameter would be and what your no limit would be. Regardless of the route, I take one thing with me. The Golden State is not a collection of names. It's a basketball idea. And ideas, when they are truly good, survive cycles because they know how to transform without losing their soul. If the next chapter asks for courage, let it be with respect. If you ask for patience, let it be with purpose. If you ask for boldness, let it be with intelligence. Chase Center may not be ready to see this version of the Warriors born, but I suspect you here with me now are, and I will be by your side for every tactical swing, every serious rumor, every adjustment that makes sense, every victory that reminds us why we fell in love with this game. If this conversation made you think, I ask you for a simple gesture that helps a lot. Leave a like, subscribe, and activate notifications. This is how this space remains alive, deep, and honest. The season will offer answers, and I will be here to translate them with you, without rushing or shortcuts. Let's continue together, chapter by chapter, building our understanding of a team that has already given us everything, and that, with the right choices, can still surprise us. And that, if today you felt like the floor at Chase Center shook, get ready. The next chapters will shake even more everything you believe about this team. I'll be here, millimeter by millimeter, breaking down adjustments, testing formations, simulating exchange scenarios, and showing how each decision changes the mathematics of victories. Want to understand the Warriors from the inside out, without noise, with clarity and intensity? So finish this video the right way. Open the Warriors Analysis playlist now. There you will find the complete sequence, from tactical X-ray to strategic behind the scenes, organized for you to marathon and get ahead of the debate. Click on Warriors Analyses in the description or on the screen card and come with me. Each episode adds a piece of the puzzle, Together, they show the way the Warriors can win now. Don't leave it for later. Join the Warriors Analysis playlist right now and let's turn this page with information, conviction, and the standard of excellence that Dub Nation deserves.